Okay, thanks for joining me for the second of the butterfly model videos. These are set up for people either about to join or taking part in a butterfly model program. We are just going to skim through them, and so you can get a rough idea of the content so that when we work together, we can unpick these in greater detail. So the thing that we're looking at the moment is the first part of the butterfly model process, the learning loop. The purpose and passion is about exploring what it is to be fully human, being present. This equates to the spiritual intelligence, intuitive intelligence. Again, don't confuse spiritual with religious. This is more you can be spiritual but not religious. This is more about intuitive intelligence and more in the field of sort of Carl Jung psychology than anything deeply mystical. Here's one of the resources that you may want to use certainly if you're working in education. This is a primary and Key Stage 3 book on the elements of developing spiritual intelligence. But really, it's about starting the process starting with your intuition, listening to your gut, checking it with your rational mind, and then taking action. And this quote from Patanjali highlights how important it is to be inspired at the beginning of the journey. Again, this activates both the wiring in the brain, gets the hippocampus kicking in, but also it's about beginning to trust your intuition. Albert Einstein said that we need both. So the intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a loyal servant. But we've become a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So we won't be going into any extreme, excessive, or destructive elements of the intuitive or rational, but we do acknowledge that they play an important role in the whole. And part of the whole butterfly model process is you can't just take the bits that you like. This is based upon a concept of ultimate reality, and that is made up of 4 elements that Ruma Godden talks about in his quote about everyone being a house with 4 rooms: a physical, mental, and emotional, and a spiritual. Most of us tend to live in one room most of the time, but unless we go into every room every day, even if only to keep it aired, we're not a complete person. So the butterfly model process is about consciously connecting with these elements of our humanity: intellectual, emotional, practical, and spiritual, and linking them to their relevant components. Spiritual is leadership, emotional is about managing behavior, practical is learning, and critical IQ is about outcomes. And those elements are vital in any educational organization, any business that seeks to learn. So we'll be exploring those. So at the heart of what we're doing is being present, and the question is, how long do we live? And then the answer is a moment in time. Now, if you're on one of the programs, the more sustained project, particularly one of the university programs, we'll be exploring this concept of a moment in time using the model called Ichinen Sanzen, particularly if you're with the Japanese students. Ichinen Sanzen is a concept, 6th century concept of a mathematician who worked out that we have 3,000 potential ways of being in each moment. And so butterfly model is actually based upon the concept of Ichinen Sanzen, but explained in current language and backed up by modern neuropsychology and practical activities. But the 3 key elements of this are the 3 realms, the 10 worlds, and the 10 factors. And so when we launch the programs, we explore this relationship and the 3 realms: the realm of self, the realm of others, and the environment. Because this dynamic, and this is an ideal, is making sure that we have a balance between our needs, the needs of others, and our shared goals. So when we meet, our starting point in purpose and passion is clarifying where we are and what we're focusing on collectively, not what one individual or one individual group is seeking to do, but what we as a group can sign up to create value. And the value creation matrix, again, is quite simple. It's simple to explain. It's difficult to actually live. At any moment, we're creating value or anti-value. When we're creating value, we have a value system that's open, flexible, wide-ranging. We have a creative process that's open, flexible, wide-ranging. And then we will educate, then we will learn. And quite simply, if we move into excessive creativity, which means we only like to work in the systems that we want to work in, then things will begin to break. Things won't work as well. And if we have excessive in terms of values, so we only want to work in our values, we actually create anti-value. And at any moment, you're creating value or anti-value. And if you get locked into the lower ends of both creativity and anti-value, it becomes destructive. And many organizations, many relationships like the idea of being open and creating value, but in reality, most organizations tend to be a little excessive in terms of their beliefs and processes and attached to those, and some of them are very destructive. So part of our process is to clarify what our values are and what the creative process will be to work for us. And that may mean coming out of your corner in terms of your view of the world. Lao Tzu, who's part of this methodology and 6th century, said if you keep to one corner and neglect the myriad aspects of the totality, if you take one thing and disregard the rest, then what you attain will be little and what you master will be shallow. And the butterfly model is about looking at all aspects of reality and finding the most appropriate way to engage. And that may require some compromise. The psychology, we looked at the neurology a little bit. The psychology of this is based upon the work of Dr. Clare Graves. It's called the Emergent and Cyclical Levels of Existence theory, or more colloquially, spiral dynamics. And it's about exploring the self and others dynamic that we are hardwired as children to. So we move from a survival state and newborn babies, tribal, self as infants. And as we get older, our world view shifts into order, and then enterprise when we hit puberty, and then we move into community and interconnected or complexity and interdependent. And in the same way that an individual can work their way through the spiral, organizations do as well. And if they become excessive and destructive in any of these drives, then they won't work. So what we'll be exploring in our first session is, do you understand the language of collaboration? And are you excessive and destructive? And which one of these drives are you most attached to? Current thinking in certainly areas of psychology, there are some people that take great ideas and move them to the next levels, and there is some debate what these look like. But for the purpose of our work, we move to the level of interconnected, which is systems thinking. Anything above is either too complex or not necessary within the context of the work that we do, to make sure that we can work through the stages of knowing why we're here, how are we going to work together, what our role is, what the plan is it innovative, can we assess it and the impact, and let's reflect upon it, and then go back to the beginning to continue the next challenge. So as I said in the first video, the process of the cycle will become more and more apparent the more we do it. So this is the second time we've gone through this cycle, and the more you do it, the more you'll understand it. And it's not particularly radical process, but it is a rigorous one, and it does require repetition, and it also requires the realization that the only moment we have to make a difference is now.